being successful as a lawyer, right? So I would assume that. So how many of you have an intention? Why are you studying law? Why do you want to be a lawyer? If you're a lawyer, then you must be having an intention of being commercially successful, being professionally successful, right? So it's very important for us to keep in mind the laws of demand and supply. Okay, there is a law of demand and supply which governs all capitalistic societies. We live in a capitalistic society, and whether you succeed or fail, a lot of it has to do with demand and supply. And unfortunately, most lawyers or law students do not really think of it this way, that there is a demand and supply. So if you start a new business, right? If you even if you want to start something, any business, maybe something as simple as a tea stall, nothing complicated about a tea stall. If you want to start a tea stall, and I tell you that here is all the resources for setting up a tea stall, where would you set it up? Will you set it up any random place? You will try to find a place where there is high demand for such service for tea, right? Natural idea. If you had to set up a business, you will probably try to set up a business which has a high demand and has low supply. Therefore, prices are good, right? So this is very important. But most of the times, lawyers or law students are not encouraged to think in this manner. Important is location, demand analysis, forecasting, right? So Jessica, you will do all of these things. Unfortunately, lawyers and law students are rarely encouraged to think in this manner. They do not take into account demand and supply. What they say is that, oh, I really like this, therefore I want to study this. But I am fascinated about this, and therefore I want to study this. But in the end, you have to realize that you might. Anyone here who can explain the Pareto principle to me? 20% input, 80% output. Okay, Jessica. Anybody else wants to try? There's a very interesting story of Pareto principle. So Pareto was an economist, and he found that a very interesting phenomenon. He looked at in many different places and found that 20% of the output is being produced by 80% of inefficient processes, and 80% of the um, production is coming from only 20% of the business. And he saw the proof of this in many places. Like, for example, he looked at peas, pea production, and he saw that 20% of the pods are producing 80% of the peas, whereas like 80% of the pods together is producing only 20%. And he saw this, that in many organizations, 20% of the people are responsible for 80% of the results. All the other 80% people together are producing 20%. In some places, he saw that there are some companies in the economy which are producing 80% of the result, 20% only producing 80%, and 80% altogether producing just 20% of the production. And you can you can see about, basically, as 80% work is done by 20% people. You can say that one way to remember Pareto principle. So if you apply this to law practice, you will realize that there are 20 most common tasks. Just apply this and think, what if this is true? That there are 20 most common tasks in any area of practice that you deal with 80% of the time. So 80% of the work that comes are these 20 tasks. Okay, and there is also hundreds of other tasks, but they just come 20% of the time, right? So there are some really repetitive, high frequency tasks, and imagine that there are just 20 of them. And if you learn these 20 things, then you can do most of the time, you can do most of the work. Sure, there are a lot more things to learn. This is not an absolute truth, by the way, but it's an approximation. Okay, it is a direction to go in. So imagine that I have not gone and researched in every area of law, but in a lot of areas of law I have seen this. And this is how, when we build courses, we try to decide that, okay, what are the things we're going to teach first. We trying to find those things which come very frequently, have high value, fewer people know this, there's high demand and low supply. And these are tasks that, if you know this, then 80% of the time you look very smart because you already know this. Sometimes those special 20%, that is called long tail. Okay, if you look at a graph, you can see the long tail of a graph slowly going towards horizon, and these are long tail tasks. Okay, and there can be hundreds of them, hundreds of different things. But imagine, what if this was true, that you can learn 20 skills and these are happening 80% of the time. 80% of the time, this is the work that clients bring to you. Or if you work in a law firm, 80% of the time, this is the work that comes to you. Maybe not 80%, maybe 50%. Even then, it is pretty valuable, isn't it? So if you know these 20 tasks very well, then your chance of success as a lawyer right from the beginning is quite high. And other people are not looking at it this way, right? They are trying to learn each and everything. They are not. So it's about the moment you start prioritizing something, you become better at those things, right? So by learning the most common tasks, you can make a great deal of progress in your early years, much faster than others. This is a secret of success. If you can identify what are these 20%, anyone, I remember Ken Slick was there. Who else was there? Subhanshi was there. Who else? Rasika was there. Dipankar was there. Okay. The guys who are watching this on YouTube, any of you are here yesterday, you can write in the chat. Pankaj, Dipankar, great. So imagine how much easier it becomes to specialize if you can learn these 20 most common tasks, right?